Did you know there's even more microbes in our gut than the cells in our body? So how could they not make an impact on our health? I'm going to talk today about the connection between your gut health and your brain health, including mood, stress, your ability to recall things. So let's explore that together today. I'm Dr. Shelley Meyer. If you're new here, welcome. If you're coming back, thanks so much for coming back and for being a follower of my channel. I really appreciate the support. I am a functional medicine doctor, a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and family doctor. So I have my own functional medicine practice. You can find out more information on my description. So I talk a lot on this channel. In case you're new here, I talk a lot on this channel about gut health, hormone health, probiotics, balancing your hormones, balancing your gut, certain supplements that can help, nutrition, food, all of the above. So today I'm focusing on the connection between your gut and your brain because that is an important, essential connection. So I have helped a lot of people in my practice work on their gut health and then seen a, not even intentional, but boost in their brain health, meaning their recall, their ability to remember things, their brain fog is reduced, they're just feeling more energetic, their depression and anxiety can improve. I'm not promising that every single time you improve your gut that this is going to happen, but it's something worth exploring because there is such a strong connection. So gut problems impact more than 35% of people at some point in their lives. Our brains and our digestion are just inherently connected. And even like when we think about food, we release gastric juices that get us ready to digest that food. Stress can worsen, as you've seen and heard and probably experienced, stress can worsen GI symptoms. So you see that connection too. So if you're very stressed or anxious or nervous about something, you could feel worsening of heartburn or what we call GERD, nausea, diarrhea, constipation, cramping. So there's definitely that connection. When somebody gets anxious, they can have butterflies in their stomach or knots in their stomach. So I'm just trying to show that there's definitely that connection that we all see and feel. So our gut can be called our second brain. And the reason we say that is the gut has its whole enteric, that's what we call it, anything to do with the gut usually has enter in it. So enteric nervous system that is very similar to our other nervous system, our autonomic nervous system, which has the fight or flight and rest and relax. So our enteric nervous system spans our whole digestive tract, and it works very similarly, like I said, to the main nervous system. 100 million nerve cells that communicate via neurotransmitters. As an example, you may have heard before, we have so many serotonin receptors and serotonin production, or so much serotonin production in our gut. And we've probably heard a lot about serotonin and our mood. So people are on what we call SSRI, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and selective reuptake inhibitors, or SNRIs, where it's serotonin and norepinephrine. So what that means is those are the antidepressants and some anti-anxiety medicines. So we see that that if we have a lot of neurotransmitter receptors, serotonin receptors in our gut, that's definitely impacting, if our gut is impaired, it's impacting our mood and our brain health. And the gut enteric nervous system speeds up and slows down based on the fight or flight, that parasympathetic nervous system, and the rest and relax. So when we rest and relax, we then have the signals via our enteric nervous system to rest and digest well. When we have fight or flight, that digestion is not happening because the body's, via the nervous system, choosing not to because it feels like it's in a state of panic or stress, and digestion is not the top of the priority list at that time. And our gut microbiome is important too to the gut-brain connection. If you've seen any of my videos before, I talk a lot about the microbiome. So I would suggest, if you're interested in that, to check that out. I've got a lot of videos on improving the microbiome. So our gut microbiome is our environment of bacteria and viruses and some parasites even. We don't want those, but they can exist. And that if that environment, that microbiome is imbalanced, then we can see some neurotransmitter imbalance, some communication from our nervous system being imbalanced, and that can affect our brain and our mood. So it's not only the fight or flight or rest and digest, it's also what does that environment look like in the gut, and how is that impacting our brain health and our mood? And I do have an upcoming video and a couple upcoming videos on anxiety and our gut health, so be sure to stay tuned when I post those. I haven't made them yet, but they are coming out soon. And if you are having gut problems, I just want to take a moment to mention my Trust Your Gut online course. It's so many videos, so many resources on boosting that microbiome, balancing that gut health, and then therefore helping your brain health as well. But especially if you're having gut problems, diarrhea, indigestion, reflux, constipation, bloating, gas, or just a lot of skin issues too, really check out the course. It's at a lower rate than it used to be, and I have a link in my description. If you follow that link, you will save the most money. If you go straight through Udemy, which is who it's through, it's a little bit higher of a cost because I have some coupons attached. So check that out, especially in the month of January 2023, there's a lower cost. But back to the video. Also, if you, there'll be a screen at the end that talks about my PDFs. I will have a PDF, free PDF, totally free, and all my other videos on the playlists and everything that aren't in the course you can get for free. It's just within the course, it's all very well organized and together with the supporting resources and a lot more information. But you can check out my gut health playlists and my other videos. But the PDF that's free will be 15 ways to improve your gut and your brain communication. So anyway, back to the information today. So stress and mood problems can worsen our leaky gut. As I've talked about that connection already, but to mention what leaky gut, stress and gut connection, but to mention what leaky gut is, so we're supposed to have a tight barrier that doesn't allow things to leak in through the intestinal system. And when we have leaky gut, the barrier's like this and not like this. And so we can have infection and food antigens, meaning like the breakdown products of our food, and other things leak through the gut. Then when we have leaky gut, we can have the above symptoms, the skin problems, the gut problems, and mood problems and brain problems. So stress and altered mood, depression, anxiety, worry, panic can then worsen leaky gut. So I'm showing the connection that gut health impacts the brain, but our mood and our stress and our brain health also vice versa impact the gut. So we got to have a good circle going on between the two. And then when we have leaky gut, we can also have worsening immune function, heart disease, insulin resistance leading to diabetes and high blood sugar, weight gain. All kinds of things are attached to leaky gut. We all have risk factors for leaky gut. Nobody's living a perfect life without stress, without infection, without maybe food intolerances or history of antibiotic use, or certain medications can lead to leaky gut. We all have a risk factor for leaky gut, but I'm not saying everyone has leaky gut, but we need to know these connections and how we can repair a leaky gut. And I've got lots of videos on that, and the course covers it in detail. So if we have an altered microbiome, as I was discussing earlier, an altered environment, an imbalance, inflammatory markers in our gut environment, or too much bacteria, bad bacteria, there's a lot of good bacteria in there too, parasites, viruses that we don't want there, then we're going to have sometimes worse mood, increased brain fog, as I was talking about, a lot of inflammation. And inflammation not only affects, being sore or inflamed or red somewhere in our body, but our brain too. Our brain can become inflamed, and then our mood is not as good. Our brain function, our ability to, do math, to remember where you left the car keys, to recall what you just read, to remember your list in your brain, to do the things you need to do at work or at school, those can be impacted then by inflammation. And then there can even be dementia links between a really bad gut environment and dementia, or a lot of inflammation from leaky gut and dementia. So we don't want that to happen. We want to be proactive and preventative. That's what my kind of practice and my kind of medicine, functional medicine that I associate with the most strongly is all about. And then we want to, so like I said, we want to boost that gut-brain connection. How do we do that? So we know the connection now. How do we make it different? Well, if you've seen some of my other videos, I talk so much about fiber, and I know I sound like a broken record, but fiber is essential for gut health, for getting rid of the nasty stuff in our intestinal system, the toxins, the pesticides, the things that we don't want recirculating, excess hormones. You need that fiber to push it all out. So fiber is essential for detoxification. It's essential for hormone health. It's good for heart health. It's good for blood sugar. It's good for your weight. There's not a negative unless, there's a certain medical condition like gastroparesis or something where you don't handle fiber well. Then you want to work with your doctor through that so you can have fiber again. But most people watching this might not be suffering from that. So what we want to do is boost fiber. Average American diet is about 15 grams of fiber. We're trying to get 30 to 35, if not more. I don't really go above 40 very much, but it's fine if you do. So track it. Don't just think you're eating enough fiber. So many people are like, oh my God, my diet is so clean. We put it all in an app. We see there's maybe 15 to 20 grams of fiber if they're lucky. Track it on a free app. Like you can get MyFitnessPal free for a month. Carb Manager is one of my favorites. Chronometer. Use a tracking method and make sure you are getting to that, preferably 35 to 40 grams. You want to boost your antioxidant foods. That will help boost your good gut bacteria, more polyphenols, the better your balance of your good bacteria are. So what are antioxidants food? Your bright reds that aren't like fake FD&C reds, but bright red, naturally colored pomegranates, berries, tomatoes, and then your bright oranges, carrots, bell peppers, some of the leaf lettuces that are red or green. Broccoli is for your greens, because that's another antioxidant color. The bright reds and oranges and purples have more antioxidants, but the green leafies definitely have their share of antioxidants as well, and fiber. So you're going to look for eating the rainbow. As many different colors of fruits and vegetables as you can get, and as much variety as you can get, the better. Of course, you can take antioxidant supplements, but it's always better to get things, if you can afford it, in organic, real food versions, but do what you can afford. Also, we want to decrease inflammatory triggers, because the more inflammation, the worse the gut, the worse the brain, and the worse your brain function. So inflammatory triggers can be different for different people, but across the board, if you're trying to just start with what would apply to most people, reducing dairy, at least processed dairy, maybe having a little bit of an organic, harder cheese sometimes, or a grass-fed dairy. But for the most part, dairy can be inflammatory for a lot of people's guts, and gluten and sugar. I know not everyone has to be gluten-free, and there are some healthy gluten foods like the real whole grains, but most of us, if we're eating gluten, I don't eat gluten, but most of us that eat gluten, it's the processed gluten, are, in the US at least, they are processing the heck out of wheat and grains to make it fluffier and tastier, and then it's higher and higher in gluten, and that's why we see many more gluten intolerances, and we're more aware of it too than there used to be. So I would recommend a trial of low dairy or no dairy, if you have it, just like hard cheeses, avoiding the ice creams and milks and creams if you can, and no gluten. But don't go the easy route and replace with tons of gluten-free substitutes like gluten-free bread. It's not that good anyway. There's some good brands, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't taste like real bread. Gluten-free cookies and crackers and all that. We don't need that. We just need real whole food that's not processed into a flour and made into something yummy and white and, that mouthfeel. Try to get it out. Try to eat real food. Try to get the added sugars out. Read your labels for sugar. 20 grams or less is what we're looking for per day. And the lower, the better. So you can get your natural fruit sugars in fruit, 2 or 3 servings a day. Mostly eat vegetables with your fruit and vegetable consumption. But yeah, you do want to get those brightly colored fruits, but just have 2 or 3 a day, and the rest all be vegetables out of your 7 to 9 total fruits and vegetables. So getting that sugar out, that processed sugar that's not fruit, the kind that's on the label, read your labels, get that sugar down. If I had to pick one out of those 3, sugar would be the most important. It is the most inflammatory of all of them. So if you want to start there, if the rest of it feels too overwhelming, start there, add in more fruits and vegetables, more brightly colored, eat the rainbow, and you'll find naturally a lot of those other things will probably be reduced as well. And as you may have heard Michael Pollan say, eat real food, mostly plants. It's a great summary. Fermented foods can be helpful to your brain health as well and your gut health. It depends. If you're histamine sensitive, you may not handle fermented foods as well. Yogurt would be the exception to that dairy rule I was talking about because it is high in fermented foods. So if you can get a whole kind of no sugar added Greek, doesn't have to be Greek, but a whole no sugar added organic yogurt, and you tolerate that, fine. There are some non-dairy yogurts as well. Sauerkraut, low sugar kombucha, tempeh, miso, kimchi, fermented veggies. Those can be helpful. Even more helpful to the gut-brain connection is omega-3s. So you could do, a wild-caught salmon. That we do have to worry about mercury in our fish, but salmon or tilapia are lower, sardines are lower. The smaller fish have less mercury. You could also get your omega-3s in a plant-based option, which is great, and I think preferred. Walnuts, chia, flax are great things to add in. They have the fiber as well. And of course, you can take a supplement. Eggs are sometimes supplemented. The chickens are supplemented with omega-3s. You can take if you're a vegetarian like me, I'll link it below, Barlean's omega-3s. You often have to take more as a vegetarian because it has to do that conversion from the ALA into EPA and DHA, but you can still get a decent amount of omega-3s in the ALA vegetarian versions. There's algae-based for vegetarians, and I do take that. And then if you're not a vegetarian, you can take a good omega-3 supplement, and I'll list some options down below. That's really good for that brain because omega-3s reduce inflammation. They do improve brain health, and they also do improve gut health because they reduce inflammation in the gut. So those are good options. And then there's probiotics that can boost. They've done independent studies on probiotics just without changing the diet, which I highly recommend changing the diet first and eating and getting really good hold on that. But probiotics like lactobacillus and bifido, very good for the brain-gut connection. And then something I'm going to talk about because it really deserves its own video, but a new up-and-coming probiotic. It's been around for a bit, but it hasn't been around in probiotic supplement form, but called Akkermansia. Very good for brain health. So that's something to keep on your radar. There are some brands that are making Akkermansia strictly only probiotic supplements, and I will put the links down below. They're I don't think they're on Amazon or any of those more commonly ordered sites yet, but they do have their own sites, and last year there was only one brand that I knew of. Now there's a couple different when I looked before I made this video. So I'm going to be doing my own video, or its own video on that, but it is something to think about too. And then look at microbiome testing. If you work with a holistic practitioner, naturopath, integrative, functional, they could do, I like GI Map or GIFX to test your microbiome. And then, or eating prebiotic foods, high fiber foods like I talked about in many of my videos, and, your fiber goals, eating asparagus, sometimes the flax and chia and all that can help with being a prebiotic. Fibers can help to feed the good bacteria. Potato starch, inulin, chicory root coffee, jicama. Those are all, I have a whole thing on prebiotics, a whole video on that as well, but eating foods that feed, a lot of fruits and vegetables too, that can feed the good bacteria. Exercising outside, that helps to lower your stress and inflammation. Getting, exposure to nature and combining that with exercise is important for your brain. Meditating, if you need help with that, I have some other videos on some good resources, but in brief, I love the Calm app. A lot of people love Headspace, Buddhify, Insight Timer. Those are all things. And then there's free YouTube videos on meditating. So get started, even if it's just 5 minutes a day. Doing something like that will really improve your gut-brain connection. Deep breathing, so inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale out of the belly for 8. Do that 3 times in a row, several times a day. I know if you've watched my videos before, I'm being repetitive, but these are all kind of things that tie in together to improvement in health overall with hormones, gut, and many other things. lowering inflammation. So I hope you enjoyed learning about the brain-gut connection. I will be focusing some on anxiety because I see that a lot in my practice coming up. I'll have the Akkermansia video coming up. I do have the Trust Your Gut course, so I'd love for you to check that out. Please like, subscribe, and share this video to help keep the channel growing. And I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you next week.